You good?
Yep.
All right, cool. All right, so good evening and welcome to this breakout session on starting a charter school. My name is Kanan Stevens and I'm a co-founder of the Liberation of Education. I'm so pleased to be with you all tonight to introduce our esteemed speaker, Lindsay Hoyt. Lindsay is the founder and board chair of Cornerstone Classical Academy, an approved K-12 classical charter school in Jacksonville, Florida, currently in its second year of operation, serving 664 students. Lindsay has 10 plus years of experience in sales and talent acquisition after making a career switch from the political sector in Washington, D.C., where she worked in fundraising, media, and grassroots mobilization. Seeing no public or private schools in Jacksonville that were purely classical and realizing what her daughters would be missing, she decided to start a classical academy. For the past 4 years, Lindsay has dedicated herself to what she deems a professional volunteer, ensuring the school's successful launch in August of 2020 and healthy growth. So without further ado, please join me in warmly welcoming Lindsay Hoyt.
Thank you so much, Kanan. It is an honor to be here with you presenting at the Liberation for Education Conference, and I'm really excited that this event is happening, and I'm honored to talk. So I just want to start out by talking about kind of the difficulties of charter school opening. And I would say that it isn't hard. It is one of the most difficult undertakings that you can ever do in your life, at least from my experience. And just to let you know, I'm located in Jacksonville, Florida. So we're in Northeast Florida. And we do, thank goodness, have a very charter school friendly state. Which is very helpful. But I'm happy to share my story with you in hopes that it might help you if you're considering embarking on this journey of starting a school. So a lot of people are confused about what a charter school actually is. So I wanted to kind of go over it at a very high level. So charter schools are nonprofits. We're a 501c3 organization, and we have a contract, which is our essentially our charter, which is why they called charter schools charter schools. So it's a contract that we have with our authorizer, and it depends on, different states have different authorizers. Some states have state authorizers, which is kind of a state board that would approve your charter. Our school actually has our school is actually authorized by our county, Duval County Public Schools. So there's actually been a little movement there on the legislature actually last year approved colleges and universities to become state authorizers. And then they're also looking this upcoming session, I believe, the legislature is looking at having a state authorizer as well. But right now we are approved by Duval County Public Schools, which is where our school is located. So we have a board of directors, our own board of directors. So there is obviously a school board which are elected board members in Duval County, but we have our own board for our school. So we have a lot of autonomy, which is really great. We do get, funding from the state of Florida. However, it is we get less funding, so we get about 23% less than a regular public school, even though we are held to the same standards. So wanted to also let you know that it's open to everybody, so everybody has a chance to get in through our lottery system. So we have a lottery that we take place that takes place every open enrollment period, and anyone who is in the state of Florida, no matter where you live in the state of Florida, as long as there is a spot and you're willing to drive your child to the school, you can get in. So I always like to kind of start out by the foundation, the cornerstone, if you will, of why I wanted to do this. As Thomas Jefferson, I can't put it any better than TJ himself. He said that the purpose of education is to instruct citizens in their rights, interests, and duties as men and citizens. And this is necessary to make people the guardians of their liberty. And so I firmly believe that, which is why one of the reasons why I wanted to instill this in my children and others in our area. So I didn't even know 9 years ago that starting a school was even an option for me. 8 years ago, my husband took a tour of another classical school in the state of Florida. He got invited. He went. He called me up after the tour, and he just went on and on about what he saw. He said these kids were diagramming Latin sentences in sixth grade that he couldn't do even in high school. And he said he went to a class, an art class, and they're sketching out the Sistine Chapel in first grade. And he said, the decorum, all the virtues. He said, we have got to start a classical school for our children. And I thought that was crazy and nuts because neither one of us are educators. We had never started a school. We never taught before, but we looked into it for a long time. We had a 6-month-old at the time, and so had to get a little bit through the baby phase. But we researched classical education and researched how to start a charter school, knew that was a calling on our lives, and so went forward to start. So why charter schools? So charter schools are tuition free. So it doesn't cost anyone a dime. We are academically rigorous. We are a private school environment, I always say, but public school prices. We don't have tuition. It's a different option than a regular public school. So we have a completely different curriculum that we write in our application, which becomes part of your charter that's approved. And so that's why we can have, we're completely different than the regular public school that's down the road from us. We teach in a very different manner. We have a completely different curriculum. We don't have kids on the computer all day. And so that's why this is just a great opportunity. And that's why we filled up so quickly in our schools, because it was so different than the others. So getting started. So how in the world, like, where do you even begin to do this? And that was, it's a huge daunting task to start one of these. And so, you have to start at the very, very beginning, which is recruiting a board. So in 2018, I started recruiting a board. I'm actually a recruiter by trade. So it was a really easy skill set for me to recruit people. And I recruited a bunch of unsuspecting people to do a lot of free labor with little to no chance of success. I didn't know that we had little to no chance of success, but that was kind of what it was. But I would, I wanted a varied skill set on my board. So I would recommend having someone with at least one person with a financial background, lawyer, legal background, somebody who's really experienced in marketing, fundraising, definitely an educator, writer, somebody who has local connections. It was really helpful and beneficial because this is my hometown. And so I know a lot of people. So that really helped when it came to recruiting parents, going and talking to people in the community. Because I was born and raised here, it just kind of lent a little more credibility. So you want to have people that are either willing to donate funds, because you're going to need to fundraise, or have friends who will. So either or is fine, but you need to make sure that they know that right off the bat, this is going to cost a significant amount of money. So you need to start thinking about fundraising immediately. Also, having someone who knows and understands graphic design would be really helpful, not only for your social media, but also when you're developing all your, what your logo is going to be, and what your, like all your marketing materials, your flyers, etc. It's really easy to do it in-house, and somebody that could just pump it out really quickly for free, than having to hire that out. Make sure that people know the hours that they're going to have to commit to, and just make sure that they are on board with what you're trying to do. I would recommend, I had a 10-person board, including me and my husband, for our founding board. I would strongly recommend that you would have 5 to 7 board members starting out. 10 was a little much, I think. It's kind of like herding cats at a certain point, because you're trying to manage all these schedules, and only so many people are actually going to do the work. And so I would recommend that 5 to 7 board members is probably a good start. Then when you transition into what's called a governing board, when you get your contract, your charter signed with your authorizer, then you can go down to, I would say, 3 to 5 max that really want to do the work, really care about the school. And if you have other people outside of that want to help, and that's great. As I learned in a previous job, give them a title and get them involved, but you don't have to add them on the board necessarily. So you need a minimum, though, of 2 people, and they can be on your board doing this full-time, working full-time. Obviously, you don't get paid for this, but you also need to probably recruit a couple other people to just help part-time all the time. So, doing a couple hours every single week. In our founding board, we had myself and one other person that we did this full time. We were on the phone constantly together. And then we had some other volunteers that would pop in and out. But if you could get more than 2 people, that would be really, really helpful. But 2 is definitely the very, very minimum. So the next thing you want to do is you want to have a monthly meeting set up. So monthly meetings are just keeping you on track. You don't want to go too long between meetings because kind of things can get squashed and, people kind of forget about what you're doing, even on your board, if this is your vision. So you want to set up those meetings. You want to familiarize yourself with Robert's rules, which is something I didn't do at first. And so our meetings would last for hours and hours and hours. So what you don't want to do is burn your board out by having 3-hour board meetings. So the majority of the work should be done outside of the board meeting, and then you come together and you vote. So as the chair, I was the board chair for the founding and now governing board. I would, as a founding board chair, you could talk to all the board members without any issues. And that's a whole other thing requires you, that's makes it a lot more complicated when you sign your charter in the state of Florida. And I know a lot of other states, they have what's called the Sunshine Law. And so things that are going to be, or potentially could be voted on, cannot be talked about unless it's in a board meeting. And so that makes it more difficult. As a founding board, you could talk to anybody at any time. So I would talk to my board during the founding period, before board meetings. And had I known then what I know now, I would have called every single one and done this even more. But you want to go down the agenda, try to answer the questions before the meeting, and make sure, because that's how you're going to make things easier and more streamlined. If you can kind of get things get questions answered beforehand. So that was a huge learning kind of element for me, was using Robert's rules. I had never done that before. YouTube is the best for that. It was not super complicated. I would highly recommend you implementing that day one. So you want to put the school together. So what's your mission? What's your vision? What's your motto? What's your school name? Who are your officers going to be? All those are really key in kind of the first couple meetings. We started out by just really I remember our first meeting, which was around my kitchen table, was literally just about what we wanted the school to be, because frankly, none of us had done this before, and we just were very much excited about doing this. But we started with, what is our mission? And if you're starting like us, we started a classical charter school. So I would recommend, don't reinvent the wheel. Look at other schools and what they've done, and rip off them. A lot of this stuff, like our motto is learn the truth, do the good, love the beautiful. That's nothing that is written. That's nothing that you can't take and use as your own. But you don't have to just come up with everything from scratch. You can piece together things that you like from different schools that have kind of a similar mission and vision as you. Your school name is really important. We didn't, so we started meeting. So I got our board together and started recruiting board members in January of 2018. And then by the summer, we had our first board meeting around my kitchen table. And so we didn't decide on the school name then. I think we waited until probably the fall to really figure that out, because it wasn't as crucial to us at that point. We needed to just really kind of get off the ground with our mission and kind of where this was headed, and start our application. So then your officers, that's really key. And I would recommend to the person that is going to be spending the most time is probably going to be the board chair or the board president. So that's also important for you to kind of figure that out kind of right away. You at minimum, and this is still what we have, is we have a board chair, and then we have a treasurer, and we have a secretary. Secretary is the one that manages all the meeting minutes, etc., and takes notes at the meeting. So your action items, fundraising is key. So I can't stress this enough. You need to make sure that you fundraise. I had no idea. We were just gonna, put a couple $100 in from each person and call it a day. But it took probably at least $200,000 to get us up and running, and that was with us absolutely pinching our pennies, us doing it on a shoestring budget, to say the least. So I just wanted to forewarn you that you're going to need significant funds. So because you're a 501c3, that's really great because you can go to a lot of donors and ask them for a tax exempt donation. You want to contact your charter authorizer, which in our case, like I said, it was our county. And so we contacted them. That the information was on their website as well, but you'll always just want to call them because sometimes their websites don't have the most up-to-date information, we realized. So you contact them and get what we had was a kind of a template of what they were looking for in each section of our application. You want to determine what curriculum you want. And again, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You could see what other schools are using and put it together. That's where the person on your board or one of your volunteers that's an educator can really be helpful. You want to start writing your application. We wrote a 462-page application. That seems like a lot. That's because it is a lot. And it took months and months and months. We started writing it probably in October of 2018, and we finished you have to, in our state at that time, it's changed since then, but your due date was February 1st by 5 p.m. Every year. So every calendar year, that was the deadline. We got our application in. We had some technical issues, an hour and 25 minutes before it was due. It was a push to the very, very end, and but we got it in. So when you're contacting the charter authorizer, I would also ask them about when the application's due, what time frame. We had to have, I believe, 5 bound applications that were physical copies, and then we had to have a digital copy on a USB drive. So you need to find all that out. It probably is in the syllabus that they have for you, but just in case you want to find all that out at the very beginning, you're going to have printing costs, which costs quite a few $100s at the end when you're, printing all that up. So you just want to make sure that you have enough time to get that done, et cetera. You want to hire an attorney, a charter school attorney. This is key because charter school attorneys are, you don't have to have one in your town, but definitely in your state, because the state is definitely, every state is so different. We're in Florida. I would not call a charter school lawyer up in Georgia to give me advice. So it's a very different ball game in every single state that, that type of attorney should know your state, not just the federal laws, but also your state laws, which can change all the time. So hiring an attorney, you want to do that while you're writing the application, basically. And that attorney is going to be key in looking at your application and editing it. We didn't know some of the things that were kind of new state statute. You can also find, if you do a FOIA request, you can also, and if you have friends that have started charter schools, you can get other people's applications, which we had one, which was very, very helpful for us. So we could just see how they wrote things. Obviously, you cannot copy it. They will do a search to see if you have anything that's copied in there. You also want to determine a budget. So your budget is just in general going to be everything from, your marketing. This is where your treasurer can be really helpful. Your marketing, so flyers, your social media. We actually spent a couple $1,000s on Jacksonville Mom's blog, where they posted, when we were trying to recruit students, they posted about Cornerstone Classical Academy. They had pictures that we sent them and a little blurb. And then I wrote an op-ed essentially that they pushed out to all of their, thousands and thousands of members. And that was really helpful. A lot of people found out about our school through that. Booths at targeted events. Unfortunately, we opened during the pandemic, so a lot of that stuff got shut down before we got to do that. Direct mail flyers, those are really key. I still get them from time to time for other schools now, but we did a push, and we dropped, I don't know, 5,000 pieces or something in the mail this summer before we opened to try to recruit more students. You need to, budget for legal expenses. I think we had an initial cost of about $5,000 for our application to be looked at by our council. So, but you're going to want to budget, $5,000 to $10,000 for that. A down payment on property, you're going to want to think about that, because maybe it's not today, but Lord willing, you get approved, you're going to have to look at property, and you can't just say, oh, I have no money. So you actually don't get funding until right before you open. So I started this in, January 2018. We didn't get funding until July of 2020, a month before we actually opened. So it's really tricky. That's why fundraising is really important. Enrollment software. This is something that, is going to cost you $2,500, $5,000 easily, because before you get any funding, from your state, you're actually going to have to enroll students. So you're going to have some sort of entity to do that. So we found software. That's why it's good to have somebody that's techie on your board or helpful on that, so they can help facilitate that relationship and help with that implementation. High school, or hiring your school leader, and that's the board's hire. That's what you do. So you hire the school leader and they hire other people. So what you want to do is you want to make sure that leader, you have funding for that leader, and then you're gonna have to have funding for at least one other person, probably a couple other ones before everybody comes on board in July. Next, you want to get the word out. So we created a parent information presentation, and that's where, you talk about your mission and your vision and what you want to do. We hosted parent information meetings. We did a lot of trial and error about how to get the word out for this. When it all came down, social media ads were the biggest bang for our buck. We tried everything we could think of, but parent information meetings, a lot of people, we had a target list, and we targeted people on Facebook, and it turned out to be really, really great. Actually, I was just talking to two people the other day at our school, and they both of which work at Cornerstone now. They both found out about us through Facebook ads. So they definitely work. Letters of intent. You want to get letters of intent that you can submit with your application. So you could just create a little blurb. Hi, my name is blah, blah, blah. I want to send my child to XYZ Academy. This is my address. This is my, signature. This is the date. And we got probably 400 letters of intent, and we went everywhere getting them, all the Bible studies I could think of, all the libraries that we went to, a lot of the little preschool library time, mommy and me library time. And we get letters of intent signed there. Everybody that we knew, we were, obviously trying to get them to sign. So on the business side, you want to file for your business license, your incorporation, apply for your 501c3. You want to create your website, social media accounts. I wouldn't recommend, although maybe you could go on now, but I wouldn't recommend Twitter as much as I would Instagram and Facebook. Those are kind of your biggest hubs there for moms, in my opinion. And moms are typically the ones that are going to be making the educational decisions. You want to get your logo, what we call our crest. You want to have that design. You want to determine your target audience. Your target audience is key. Who do you want to come to your school? You want to run ads. Like I said, we did a lot of preschool flyers. So we had little 4x6s. They were super slick. They were thick. And we went around to preschools and said, hey, listen, would you mind passing these out to all your K4 children? So they would find that out, because everybody's looking, they're wondering where they're going to send their child for kindergarten. Your location. Where are you going to be located? You want to find a broker that you know and trust, and maybe you even have that on your board. Maybe you have a broker or real estate agent on your board, which would be really great. So maybe they wouldn't charge you a fee. And then you want to grow your email list. You want to create newsletters, send them out at least monthly at the beginning. And when you have staff to do that, send them out a lot more frequently, but definitely, growing your email list is really key. And we use MailChimp for that, which is free. I didn't add this on here, but I would create a Google Voice number or some sort of alternate number that you could put on your school's website. And I answered the phones for years, just on my personal phone. And then, I used my Google Voice number so that, it wouldn't get out to everybody with what my personal number was. The interview, once you actually submit your application, you go to an applicant interview, which is where you're drilled by the experts in whatever section of the application that you've written. And so, that could be about, school lunches or your curriculum or your ESE, your exceptional student education section. So they will drill you for, we had about 80, 90 minutes of a drilling, and then they will score you based on that. So we got approved, and we needed 4 out of 7 school board members to vote. That was through our county to vote for us. We got approved. And then several months later, that was in May of 2019. And then in August, we had our charter contract signed. So that's where your attorney, your charter school attorney, will work with that authorizer to negotiate your contract. We have a 5-year charter contract. That's what most schools get, from what I understand, but that's what Duval County gives. We get a 5-year contract for us at our initial contract, and then it'll be up in a couple of years where we'll have to go reapply, and then go for it again. So after your approval, you want to find your property, you want to recruit families, your school leader, get your enrollment system. Do you want to get a bond? And I'm breezing through this because there's a lot here. Do you want to get a bond? And that's where we actually submitted. We found there are a handful of investors that will invest in a unrated school that has no students. And so we actually secured a $16.9 million bond to purchase our property. A lot of schools will start in a church building or strip mall or something like that. We bought our property outright. We were able to renovate the whole thing. It was an existing church. We renovated the whole thing. You want to raise more money. Obviously, when you get approved, it kind of becomes more real. So people really kind of start to catch the vision. You want to continue doing parent information meetings to recruit. If you want uniforms, pick a uniform vendor. That's what we have. You want to create your policies. One of our policies is we always, at the beginning of all of our board member meetings, we always say the school mission. We say the mission statement every single time. That could be a policy of yours. You want to find a builder, because even you might have to do some modification, even if you're not buying something. And the CSP grant, which is the federal grant that they will give you about $800,000 to for all your FF&E, your furniture, fixtures, and equipment. That's your physical stuff that's in your building, desks and whatnot, computers. So you want to make sure that you start on that, because that is a beast to get. You also want to get ready for students, obviously. So you want to get your employee recruitment going, your employee contract squared away, which your lawyer can help with that. Order all of the FF&E that you can, especially in this day and age with all the backlogs with production. Employee training. So we had to find trainers to train our teachers in our curriculum. And then we had our ribbon cutting ceremony when our building was open, which was great. So I just wanted to show you, these are my babies, Virginia and Blakely. This is why I started a school for them. And so they are both attending Cornerstone this year. This was the first day of school this year in 2021. So my kindergartner is Blakely, and she just got to start this year. Last year, Virginia was the only one here because Blakely was too little. And then to the right, the other picture is in our foyer at Cornerstone. And those are 4 of our 10 founding board members, just to get a feel of what we did and how excited we are. And that's our crest. Jeff, actually, the gentleman in the picture, he designed our crest. which is up above. And I remember standing, waiting, talking about it in front of one of our computers, back in the day. And we picked that one, and we absolutely love it. So to summarize, I know that I threw a lot at you guys, but I would boil it down to three things. You want to, the first kind of thing you want to do is you want to recruit a board. You want to decide what your mission, vision, motto, your name is going to be, and you want to start writing your application. Those are the top three things to really get started on all this. So now wanted to know if there's any questions, and this is my email address if you want to ping me or ask me anything else.
Lindsay, this was amazing. Thank you so much. So even though it says time ended, we can continue on. We've got a 15-minute break before the next session starts. But we did have several questions. So Michelle asked, since you have your own school board, does that mean you're not affected by Duval County School Board and their decisions?
So we have a lot of autonomy. I'll just say that we follow state statutes, and we don't have to follow what Duval County says. So take, for instance, with the mask mandates, we did not follow the mask mandates. So we believe that one of our 7 school virtues is self-government, and our board decided to not implement that.
That's amazing. I love that. So then I personally had a couple questions. First is, when are you going to come down to St. Johns County and start a charter school?
Okay, so funny you mentioned that. We'll talk later.
Yeah. And so then when you say free, do the families have to apply for Step Up, or is this completely unrelated? They just apply for the lottery?
They just apply for the lottery. It's free. There's no voucher or anything like that. So they just apply, and they don't have to pay anything, just like going to public school.
That's amazing.
All the books are free. I will say that all the books are free. They do have to buy uniforms, and obviously lunches. We have a vendor that does our lunch on campus. They have to pay for that as well, and breakfast. But everything else is free.
That's so cool. Let's see if there were other. Michael says, what's the largest challenge that you faced?
Oh, Michael. There were so many challenges. I had an eye twitch. Maybe that was my biggest personal challenge that I developed. I would say the biggest challenge was right before school started. We had someone that on staff that unfortunately didn't get the health inspection done in time. And so I got a call the day before school was supposed to start saying that we could not open because we didn't have the health inspection. And so I didn't eat or sleep for 2.5 days, and I made every call and asked for every favor I could. It went up to the governor's office, and we finally got the health inspector to come out and inspect it. And within Duval County, we sent the health inspection to our county, and they approved us within 9 minutes to spare of the closing. So that was the largest challenge and the most stressful challenge that we faced. But it was a miracle that we actually overcame that.
For sure. And then how much autonomy do you guys have over curriculum?
100%. I mean, we were approved. That's what's in our charter. So we wrote the charter. We wrote what's in it. I'm auditing. We're constantly trying to improve and audit, what we have. And we have complete autonomy over it. I mean, within reason. Now the state just banned quite a few textbooks. We don't have any of those textbooks, so it doesn't affect us. If we did, we would have to, obviously take those out.
Yeah. I'm looking through to see if there's anything else. So Jessica asked, from the beginning of the process, how long before you felt like things were working smoothly?
Oh gosh. I would say, so, we learned early on that, and I was given some really bad advice. You'll notice you can't, this sounds really bad, but you're going to get a lot of bad advice. when you start this. And so what I realized, I got some really poor advice saying that you just need to have a principal that will lead your school and you're going to be fine after that. Well, that was not the case because because we're an unmanaged charter school, so we're kind of considered a mom and pop charter school. So there's managed and unmanaged, and we don't have a management company that is doing all of our legal or all of our benefits and things like that. So because of that, we have a lot more on the business side of things for our school and have to be taken care of, and a lot of compliance that it's not taken care of by anybody but the staff. So we ended up hiring an executive director last summer. So we opened in 2020 with we had 442 students as a K through 6th grade. And then this year we have 664 students as a K through 7th because we're adding a grade every year till 12th. We'll have 772 students next year. We're growing to 1,200 by the time we're K through 12. And we're adding a VPK as well next year, which will be another 50 kids. But we hired an executive director to be our CEO over the entire school. So she's over the entire school, is the best hire we made. She's amazing. And then the principal is underneath them. And the principal is over all the academics. And our CEO is over all the business side. So she has taken a lot of the burden off. And that's when things started really clicking. Because the first year, which any school is going to have problems, but it was a crazy year. And then couple that with COVID on top of it, where we're having to manage all that. I mean, talk about a perfect storm. I mean, starting a school isn't hard enough. And then you throw in a worldwide pandemic. That could be super fun. And that's what we did.
Wow. So adding a grade every year, all the way up till 12th grade, like, are y'all going to max out your space? Are you going to need to buy more space? Like, what is that going to look like, do you think?
So we bought 16 acres, so we won't need more space right now. So we have a lower school building. Right now we're in the process of fundraising because we don't get any money from the state for facilities, so that we have to borrow money or get funds donated. So we're trying to raise the money now because the more money, obviously, that we can fundraise, we don't have to borrow it, and so more money goes to the kids, and that's what I want. So we're trying to raise $15 million to build an upper school building, so that would include a gym as well, and so that's what that'll be hopefully done in a couple years, so we can get that underway. But the great thing is that we have all the property we need. It's kind of an odd shape where we are, but we can fit it in, and we're working with a team of builders right now to do our architecture plans, at least the outline, the footprint for the school.
Good. Well, I highly recommend the focus group. I don't know if you've heard of them yet, but they're incredible. They're our gold sponsor here for this conference. Brad is a personal friend of mine, and he's very talented at what he does. So it's a plug for our sponsor.
That's great. No, I definitely have heard of it. I've met them before, and they're fantastic guys. Yeah, they're really great.
Good. That's awesome. Well, it's gotten quiet in the chat and the Q&A, so I think everybody's questions have been answered. But Lindsay, this was amazing. Thank you so much for joining with us and taking time out of your night to tell us all about charter schools. And I'm inspired. I'm not going to start a school. I have enough on my plate, but I have lots of people that I can think of that would be really great at this. So I'm going to start tapping them on the shoulder and saying, "You should do this."
Yeah, please have him ping me. So anytime. We need more school choice, definitely.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, thanks so much for having me.
Thanks, Lindsay. We'll talk to you later.
Bye.
See ya.